I wanted to maintain this kind of like sleepover spirit. Like I wanted the movie to have this feeling of like when you were at a sleepover as a kid, you're like, should we choreograph a dance? Should we film it? I absolutely was always going to play her, but I tried at first. I knew I was going to play an ingenue, and at first I tried to really mostly for the sake of like budget, and I tried to make her a man. Because I was like, well, this will be. I really thought I was going to like totally self-fund this movie, make it with friends, like completely off the grid. And so I thought it would be easier to just like look like myself, but I was gonna make it like a gay male character that had these kind of ingenue rhythms. I thought that could be very funny, like an ingenue kind of spirit. But as I kept working on it, I was like, I think this would be so much more magical if I played a woman. Like, I think the heightened style, if there's this kind of magic trick transformation into like mostly seamless transformation into a woman, like I feel like if people accept that within the first scene, then they are more likely to go along with, they're more emotionally available to go along with the rest of the style of the movie, because it's a very heightened movie. I also just think there's something very kind of hypnotic about it. I'm not just playing a woman in like a kind of totally naturalistic, like kind of gritty, like handheld world. It's very cinematic, and her hair is lit as much as we can light it, like when we had the opportunity to. She's always glowing. We use these kind of like vintage old Hollywood lenses, like, so I don't know, I wanted there to be this kind of hypnotic quality to the movie that pulls you into this like fairy tale tone. And so I don't know, I thought playing a woman would be really interesting. I think it's really gauche to post a Deadline article. I just do. I wasn't really intentionally trying to keep it a secret. I just like, especially with this movie, with this character, Maddie, who I play, I really wanted to preserve her, like how she's presented to the world. I don't want you to see pictures of her like where I'm like eating a Starbucks egg pod, on set. You know what I mean? Like with like clips in my hair, I want her to be like, I want people to meet her for the first time in a very thoughtful way. So I would like for people to encounter her first through like a trailer and to be shocked, by the whole thing. So yeah, it was more just about like keeping the magic of her alive and not like doing like a Deadline article that like reveals the plot and There's a lot of polyester John Waters in this movie. That's John Waters doing a kind of Cirque homage, a kind of goofy Cirque. There's a lot of Strangers with Candy, and a huge influence of mine that they would do these like kind of movie of the week or like after school special kind of parodies. There's the movies of the week themselves, like Kate's Secret is the biggest one, starring Meredith Baxter Birney about a bulimic housewife, and Perfect Body, the best little girl in the world, Mary Margaret, Portrait of a Bulimic, For the Love of Nancy. There's a huge subgenre of eating disorder TV movies, a lot of which I watched as a child, which is insane. I mean, that's part of what's kind of perversely funny to me about all this, is like that I would just stumble upon these incredibly dark movies like late at night in my house with my sister, and we were just like, and they're pretending to be kind of educational or to have the kind of moral purpose of teaching good American families about the issues of the day, but they're very perverse and lurid and tawdry, and so a lot of that went into it. But honestly, Showgirls was a huge influence. I wanted this movie to feel like Showgirls, and Nomi's like Elizabeth Berkley's kind of open-hearted, just like expressive performance was something I wanted to capture, because it's both like, it's so funny when you watch her performance, but it's incredibly moving too. And the kind of just careening, like, style of that movie, and it's a very sexual movie. The sound design is very sexual. That was like a huge influence. This movie, a couple more. Marnie, Hitchcock. I rip off a lot from Marnie. The kind of mother-daughter thing, this kind of old 50s melodrama. I mean, that's the 60s, but like this kind of like kind of Freud for the masses, like big cathartic therapy scene at the end where all the secrets come out, like Suddenly Last Summer, you know. Anyway, these are the things I was stealing from. Everything that I've ever loved, it's equally funny and like brutal and devastating, you know. And it's also just like, you know, I'm a child of Presbyterian ministers, you know. Humor was my way of rebelling, you know. And there are some people, when they are kind of dealing with the pain, the trauma in their lives, they need to like approach it very sensitively and respectfully and gravely. And then there are a lot of other people like me and all my friends who actually need to laugh about it. They need to kind of mock it or come at it more indirectly. And so that's just always been my approach, both personally and artistically, to talking about heavy things, is through humor. So I trusted that, but I was definitely very aware that like the culture has changed a lot since like polyester. Part of why I trusted myself too was as I was writing it, I was just within 5 pages, I was like, all the kind of irony and the satire just melted away, and I was like totally emotionally involved and in love with Maddie, and I was so worried about her, and I was like, I don't know, and so I knew that I cared about her, and I trusted that, and I knew that in the same way that I care about Nomi so much in Showgirls, like, I don't know, I believe in people's capacity to appreciate both layers, and that's what's been so exciting, honestly, about the 2 screenings here at TIFF. Is just I've actually felt like people have had no. I was scared that people would be almost suspicious of the kind of more earnest, sincere parts of the movie, because that's something I've encountered with previous work I've made. Is like I always like mean it, you know, and I always care about the characters, and then like people tell me that my work is mean or something, and it really hurts my feelings, you know, or I just feel misunderstood, or I feel like I failed artistically. But this movie is working, or it seems to be working so far. People are just coming up to me being like, I was crying and I love Maddie, and you know, like, and a lot of people have. I have friends who I consulted on this movie who have had eating disorders or were in treatment centers, and they've told me, they're like, it's so accurate, and I'm like, I was not striving for accuracy, but like I think it's because we were not afraid, and we tried to drill down into a kind of murky subconscious cinematic feeling instead of worrying about like tiptoeing and being educational or like saying the right thing, and as a result we maybe are more accurate in the way that cinema can be, you know. So yeah, I wanted to do something where, you know, there wasn't pressure to cast major celebrities and I could just work with my friends. I wanted especially to be able to hire designers, department heads that were my friends, who come from more of a, my cinematographer is like a photographer and he's in a program to become an analyst, you know, like he's like in a psychoanalysis school right now. And my production designer is like a painter, and he does designs for like dance and stuff, you know, like, and my costume designers are like fashion archivists, and like it was just a really cool, like everyone was coming at it from a very kind of earnest and kind of indirect place, and I think that it's what gives the movie its own strange style. And I think had it been more expensive, they would have made me hire more experienced people supporting a first-time director. So I also I wanted to maintain this kind of like sleepover spirit. Like I wanted the movie to have this feeling of like when you were at a sleepover as a kid, you're like, should we choreograph a dance? Like, you know, and like, should we film it? You know, and so I don't know. It felt like a kind of let's put on a show quality would be very good for the movie. By the way, as if there was no option for this to be more expensive. It's not like I was like, no, to a bigger budget. And also I think given the intensity of the subject matter, the kind of me playing a woman, there's some. I think I was allowed to do that without being scared of like judgment. If it had been more expensive and there were like people kind of lording over the process, you know, nervous about what I was doing, that would have been very bad for the environment on set, which was otherwise so sweet and fun.